Good day, my name is Peg Monahan and I am the Curriculum Supervisor for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math K-12 for the Neshaminy School District.
Hello, my name is Robert Boffa. I am the Curriculum Supervisor for English, Language, Arts, and Literacy for grades K through 12.
The benefits of standards-based grading for students are that learning targets are clearly defined and aligned with state standards. The students are offered multiple opportunities and ways to demonstrate their proficiency. Students can monitor their own progress towards achievement of specified targets. And specific feedback on progress helps build self-esteem, pride, and motivation for students.
And some of the benefits for parents include report card grades are less mysterious and they have more meaning. Parents are also aware of exactly what their child knows, is able to do, and the next steps for progress. Also, parents know in what areas their child needs more support. Lastly, parents are empowered to increase their child's confidence and help them set goals for learning.
So the benefits for teachers are that teachers know exactly where students stand in their progress towards learning targets and what supports need to be provided. Teachers of the same course have aligned expectations and standards. And assessments help teachers determine what students need extra help and what students need more challenging work.
There are three primary shifts that everyone should know about. And the first one is that we will be reporting in trimesters instead of quarters. And we will show you what that looks like on a calendar in a moment. Also, that these skills are now aligned specifically to the Pennsylvania Academic Core State Standards in each grade in math and for literacy subjects. Also, progress is shifting from a numeric scale to an alpha scale, and achievement will be recognized with an I, which means needs improvement, an A, which means they are approaching the standard, M means that your child is meeting the standard, and E means that they are exceeding the standard rather than the 1, 2, 3, 4 that we had in the past. Not assessed is also an option for a teacher because not every skill set will be assessed in each trimester. Now, as far as the calendar goes, parents, you might want to take notice to this because the first trimester began August 31st, but it will end November 9th. We set this up so you have time to make your elementary conferences on Tuesday, November 21st, with a progress report in hand. If we take a look at the second and the third trimester, you'll see that they have extended timelines. The second trimester will begin on November 13th and will end in March. Keep in mind that there are various holidays within this particular trimester. And then when we move to the third trimester, it will begin on March 5th and will go to the end of the school year. Right now it is June 14th, but that could change due to inclement weather. Recognize also that there are holidays such as our spring break in that third trimester as well. One of the things that will remain similar in this progress report is that we are going to keep the characteristics of a successful learner. We recognize how important it is for parents to be able to identify how your children are successful learners, how they are becoming confident learners, and also how they are portraying themselves as responsible citizens within the classroom. The difference between this and the academic reporting that we will have on this standards-based progress report is that there will not be an exceeds the standards for the characteristics of a successful learner. Children will be assessed on whether they meet the standards, whether they're approaching the standards, or whether there is improvement needed.
So what are state academic standards? The standards are what every child should think, know, and do by the end of a grade level. They were designed by the Pennsylvania Department of Education to ensure that all children in Pennsylvania public schools receive the same high-quality, rigorous education. Standards change based on college and career entry requirements. What is standards-based grading? A teacher will teach a new skill in a classroom. For instance, they'll be teaching about adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. A student has an opportunity to practice a skill, make mistakes, and then they have a test on that skill. That test then informs the teacher on what additional support that child may need. Right? So they get additional help and some additional practice. they take another assessment on that skill, and they can either demonstrate mastery or that they need additional support. We're going to do a comparison between traditional and standards-based report cards. The traditional report cards are the report cards that I and probably most of you remember from your youth. This particular slide shows the same exact child for the same period of time with the same exact skills, but they're reported differently. Traditionally, the report cards that we had when I was a child show that a new skill was introduced early in the semester. The child struggled with this skill a little bit, so they were struggling with adding and subtracting fractions. Right? So their scores were below 50%. But with additional help and practice, now they're starting to feel more confident with the skill. By the end of the reporting period, the child now has full confidence in this skill. Now, traditionally, what teachers would do would be to add up all of these assessments, divided by the number of assessments, and give a score. So in this particular case, if we were to do this, this would indicate that the child was an average math student, despite the fact that they really do know how to do this skill. In the new standards-based progress reports, we're going to look at something that's very, very different. Right? Same child, same skill. Right? So the teacher introduces adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. The child struggles early on with this particular skill, receives additional help, support, and practice, and by the time it is time to report their progress on it, it shows that they have really mastered this skill. But here is the big difference. Right? This system of reporting does not penalize the child for their early learning struggles. Right? It really doesn't matter how long it took for a child to get there, just that they do. So in this report card, we see that the child is average. No, the child really has mastered this particular skill, but they're being penalized here by their early struggles. Here, we're reporting that the child has mastered the content, and that's really what parents need to know, where their child is in terms of their skill development.
At this point, you're probably asking, how will I know how my child is progressing in achieving the grade level learning targets? There have been rubrics created for each grade level in math and literacy. There are 4 determining performance measures that will identify levels of success for your child. For the first trimester, it is not improbable that most of our children will fall into this approaching category. However, it's quite possible too that they will be in the improvement needed category. If they're in the improvement category, they're going to require a little bit more support because they're not grasping the key ideas and concepts. If we're approaching, the child is inconsistently grasping and applying key concepts to the state mandated goals. The end of the year, the 3rd trimester, we're hoping that everybody is in this meets the standards expectation. They're grasping, they're applying the concepts and processes, they're meeting the stated goals. Now, it's possible that they will meet this earlier, and that means that we will move on to other types of activities, enrichment activities, and it's quite possible that your child is exceeding the standard and expectation for the Pennsylvania academic core state standards. This child is not just consistently grasping and applying, they are extending key concepts and processes and using them in other contexts with a greater depth than was presented. This is basically saying that they are exceeding the end of the year goals and quite possibly will be working at another level.
So I would like to just add that this does not pertain to the child who is a fast learner that grasps concepts quickly. Right? We're really talking about children who apply their learning to new and unknown ways, or who will independently pursue further information about that topic. So I'm going to give you an example from the 3rd grade mathematics rubric, only one of the standards. Partition shapes into equal fractional parts and identifies parts as unit fractions of the whole. First, I do want to point out that this is the exact language that you will find on your child's progress report. So that when you go to the progress report and you look at what their performance measure is for there, then you'll know exactly where to find that on the rubric. All right, so students are asked to identify fractional parts. Right? So this is really where we want them to be by the end of the year. That children can split shapes into equal parts and identify that part as a piece of the whole. So this one section of this circle is 1 out of 4 pieces of the circle. In approaching the standard, they may not break the shapes into equal parts, but they can say that this is 1 out of 3, but they are not equal parts.
A third grade literacy example is reading informational. I want to explain reading informational for a moment. In the PA academic core standards, you have reading literature and you have reading informational. Reading literature would be our fictional texts. This example is for reading informational. They are your non-fictional texts. It could be newspaper, it could be something out of an encyclopedia or an article or a journal item, possibly even a memoir or a biography. Now, right here under reading informational, you will see 2 skill sets. The first one is uses key ideas and details to summarize, infer, and or explain. This will be explicitly placed in your report card under reading informational. The second item is uses evidence from text to support analysis. Now, if we go across this particular standard, you will see a natural progression as to what and where children should be. Now, if we're talking about meeting the standard right here, an end of the year goal would be that this child would be able to determine the main idea of a text, recount the key details, and explain how they support the main idea. If the child is approaching, you will see that there's a shift in the verbs. Determined to identify the main idea of a multi-paragraph text, as well as the focus of specific paragraphs within the text. So you recognize this would be a first grade skill. This is what we would anticipate from second grade. This is where we anticipate our child to be at the end of the year, considering this is a third grade literacy example. But if they are exceeding the standard, they will be able to determine the main idea of a text, explain how it is supported by key details. In addition to this, they will be able to summarize the text rather than recount. Some parents might have children with individualized education plans. This is an IEP. Within this IEP, there are accommodations and modifications that will be governed by the case manager or special education teacher for this particular child. The IEP trumps all. However, there will be scores on the progress report in each trimester based upon their performance and levels of achievement.
Additional information can be found on your child's website. You go to academics and go down to progress report information. There you'll find the rubrics for kindergarten through 4th grade. As a parent, you have the opportunity to do a skills trace. You can look at the skills that they should have mastered in the previous grade, and you can look and get a preview of what skills they'll be learning in the next grade. In addition, there'll be a frequently asked questions letter there that parents can refer to. If you have any specific questions about your child's progress, please contact your child's teacher. In addition, we wanted to remind you that progress report conferences will be held on Tuesday, November 21st, 2017.